This is the Rising Goddess Podcast, and I'm your host, Michelle Torrance. This is a space where when we start diving deep, we're talking spiritual, mental, and physical. We're getting real and connecting with ourselves and others in the most intimate ways. We'll be talking all things sacred sexual, relationship building, womb healing, connection, and connecting with and through our bodies, how to use our sexual and sensual energies to create, manifest, and heal our lives in our individual and collective ancient feminine lines, while intertwining our healing and connection with the divine masculine. We'll learn from amazing humans who take time and share their wisdom and sacred healing magic. Rising humans who are here in this world to be healers, teachers, guides, priestesses, warriors, shamans, and all divine sisters and brothers in rising. We'll get witchy, sassy, sexy, and saucy, talking all things that align us with our true nature and authentic selves, creating a community of divine feminine and masculine rising to be a massive part in this shift of world healing. So grab some green juice, light some cannabis, get your blankets, or sit by the fire. Let's rise up together. Catch you on the inside, dolls. Hello, my beautiful rising humans, and welcome to the next Rising Goddess podcast episode. Today, you're going to listen to a conversation between Axel, Rayne, and myself. And you actually hear in the beginning, I was a little nervous on this one because this was actually the first male guest that I've had on our show. And this is me expanding, and really, it kind of brought up some things within me. So I worked through quite a bit of stuff before I even got onto the interview and chat with him. And in the beginning, you'll notice that my voice might be a little bit shaky, but towards the middle and the end, of course, you hear your normal girl talking and really just kind of falling into the flow of everything. It's funny what our egos do to us, right? When we get this, we hype something up, we build something up, and it's like, oh, fuck, and then it happens, and like we're like, our voice is shaking, we're all nervous, and we're like, what the fuck are we nervous for? This is such a great experience. So Axel Rayne is absolutely amazing. If you're not familiar with him, first of all, go follow him on Instagram. You'll get his information. But Axel is a rock star yogi. He is self-proclaimed sublimation wizard, which we will talk about sublimation in the episode if you're not familiar with it. He tactfully teaches people how to tap into the potent primal sexual force, it really to raise it and circulate it throughout their bodies. Such an experience allows one to really come deeply into their innate power, potency, and pleasure. Axel is direct, he's clear, and practical in his ways and means. To tap the sexual energy, one must really go deeply and embody it. It's not overly intellectual, and you can't bypass it. And we talk a lot about bypassing here on the show. But one does have to go deep into this animal, primordial, and primal dark shadowy depths of their being. Once you touch that place within, it comes to terms with the aspect of themselves, then they can return victoriously. And this frees up the most potent force available to use as they see fit. One must wield this power wisely, though. It links it with their heart's purpose, their vision, and it really lets no one stand in their way. It's really a powerful and a victorious, like we said, experience. So to sublimate is to have an experience of God, universe, goddess, light source, whatever your belief is, and to cultivate sacred union, the balance between masculine and feminine within oneself, and to really truly experience true wholeness, satisfaction, and contentment. It's really such a great conversation that we have, and I'm just really excited to hear your take. So make sure you go on over to the Rising Goddess Facebook page when you are listening to this, and let's continue the conversation. And don't forget, make sure that you are downloading our podcast, rating and reviewing, because we are going top 100, and it is just such an exciting experience. So make sure you let us know. Let's continue the conversation, and have a great time with the episode. Later. All right, everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Rising Goddess podcast. Today, I am excited, as always. We have a special guest with us today. Axel Rayne is here. I'm really excited. Axel is actually our first male guest, and as you know, I've been moving into the healthy masculine, the divine feminine and masculine, the combination, the construction and the deconstruction of the toxic. And so I was really excited when I actually saw Axel with Nadine Lee. And if you guys have been listening for a while, we had Nadine on the show a couple of episodes ago. And so I found you through her. And so I was just really excited to have you on the show here and just really share with our listeners really, truly how the shift from toxic masculine and where we are, what a healthy masculine really looks like and feels like, and at least your perspective and your experience in this world with it. So welcome, Axel. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So the first question I love to ask all of my guests is, first of all, what do you love about being a human right now in this particular time and space?
Wow, that's a good question. I think I love, what I love most about being human is just emotion. So the full spectrum of emotions, from the most painful to the most pleasurable and ecstatic, to feel love and connection. I think that emotions are life, and to be in that flow for me is really special.
I love that. I love the word flow. That's really something that I jive on quite a bit. What does flow mean to you? What does that look like or feel like for you?
Flow. I think flow is being in harmony with your surroundings, or your surroundings, being in harmony with yourself, and just kind of going with the momentum of life. I think there's like a natural momentum. And when you become quiet or when you become still, you can kind of get little prompts that, oh, you should do this, or here's a good idea, or here's your next thing to do. So it's kind of like you make yourself open and receptive to it, and then you kind of just drop into this slipstream, and then opportunities start to open up for you, and you meet different people, and you just kind of like flowing down a river, basically. That's what it feels like for me.
I love that. Visuals are really big with me, and so I understand all of that with flowing down the river. It's kind of how I like to talk about the flow of life as well. Like we kind of jump into the momentum and the flow of it that's already happening, and actually let life live through us and experience, and we get to experience that that joyful experience. And some of it, of course, painful, depending on where we are at in our life cycle. Which really leads me. What were you like when you were a child? What was the younger Axel like? What kind of event happened in your life as you were growing through, or if an event happened that transitioned from who you were to who you are currently?
As a child, I was very sensitive, and I often I was quite angry as well. I think I found the world a little bit overwhelming, and I didn't know how to handle my emotions, and my parents or people that were around me didn't know how to handle me either. So I kind of just, it was like a really abrasive time. And then around about my high school years, which in Australia, 12, 13, I just kind of started to suppress this more unruly, I like to call it my animal or my beast. This side of me got suppressed. So from then I became really docile and agreeable. I would never argue with anyone. I would just walk away, withdraw, suppress. And that happened I did that for many years. It wasn't until I kind of started moving into yoga and conscious awareness that I could see what I was doing, and I saw like the trail through my life of what had happened. So then I kind of made a conscious effort to tap back into that part of myself, and that was when I was seeing like the most biggest shifts in my life. It's like tapping the shadow, or owning the shadow. I think once you get to know your shadow and you make friends with it, then I feel like you become unstoppable, because it's like the shadow is the skeleton in the closet that we all try and hide. Mm-hmm. And we're worried that someone might find out. And if they find out about our shadow, then they won't love us. But if you can get to know your shadow and you can still love yourself with your shadow, then you become complete, I'd say, or whole. Victorious, that's another word I like to use.
That's a great word.
And the shadow, our shadow is where our power is, basically, you know. It's this really this kind of dark, potent force that, if it's used in a negative way, can be used to manipulate and steal. So it gets a bad rap. But when the shadow is integrated with the heart and with the head, then it just makes you a really potent manifester. So if your intentions are pure, then you can manifest really pure intentions. It's what gives you the juice. It's the fuel, the spiritual rocket fuel to get shit done.
I really love all of that. And, you know, that really leads me, because I was reading some of your posts on your Instagram, and I was reading about the primal, dark, shadowy depths. And that was really, you were describing as diving into that. And did you have, when you were going through your shadow work, I too follow Teal Swan. And she really kind of enlightened me into shadow work a little bit ago, about a year or so ago.
She's amazing.
She is. She's absolutely fantastic, and truly, I think, just allowed me, I think it gave me permission to really open up Pandora's box and really dive into the shadow work and really face that. And I fully agree with you that when you can harmonize and integrate your shadow with your light, it is a very powerful and victorious thing. I really love that. And I know, I love that you teach yoga. How long have you been doing yoga? How long have you been teaching yoga? And I noticed that you do a lot of hatha and yin yoga. Are those your two main specialties that you like to do?
So hatha is what I trained in. I did a 2-year diploma. And yin I got into more recently, but I really love the slow, long-held, juicy postures, and also the inclusion of mindfulness. So I first got into yoga in 2013, and it was through a silent meditation retreat that I did in Koh Samui. It's called Deepavan, and that was like my first yoga experience. And the teacher who taught that class was actually from the tradition that I ended up training in a few years later. So the first time I did the class, it was a really simple class, just like gentle movements, a bit of Surya Namaskar. And at the end, I was lying in Shavasana. I was like, wow, there's something really powerful in this. Because you don't realize how tense you are until you feel deep relaxation. It gives you this spectrum. So like, I thought, oh, I'm pretty easygoing guy, but then you experience this like really deep relaxation. Then you realize how like tense you've been your whole life.
Yeah, I find myself, I've really just started doing more practice myself daily, and really allowing myself to fall into the mat and trust everything that I put into that. And I love, you know, you're right with Shavasana. It's like you get to that position and you really don't know how tight and how much energy, stale, stagnant, and tense energy you're holding on to. And that actually led me to another one. You do a lot of work with pelvic floor. Really, you work with a lot of men on, you call it sublimation. I would love for you to really just kind of, first of all, define that for some of our listeners. I do have people who are really starting to get curious about Kundalini energy and really the Tantra philosophies and how to really utilize their sexual energy after removing shame from their existence. So I'd love for you to go into that and describe how that works, or, you know, how you came about it, and did you have an experience that kind of turned you on to that, or share with us all of that.
Sure. So sublimation is my jam. I fucking love sublimation. I think as humans, sublimation is our birthright. So it's like, it's a way of harmonizing the alchemical process that happens in our body to function at a higher level. Mm. So you spoke about Kundalini energy, which is the Indian yogic Vedic reference to it, but it's also referenced in Taoism, so traditional Chinese practice. Okay. And also the Bible actually references sublimation and basically tells you how to do it. So the practice of sublimation is the raising and or circulating of the sexual primal energy, the Kundalini energy. So we usually deplete this force through men through ejaculation and women through clitoral orgasms and also through menstruation. Mm-hmm. So with the sublimation practice, rather than expending this vital force, we're basically keeping it inside ourselves, and we're using it to, well, we can use it for a lot of reasons. We're redirecting it upwards. Mm-hmm. So we can use it to charge up our power center, to give us more focus, decisiveness, assertiveness. We can use it to open our hearts, which makes us more open, loving. It allows us to feel more joy and ease. We can use it to really get clarity on our purpose and our direction. So when I spoke about being in flow, I give props to the Kundalini energy. That's what keeps me in flow. So my practice basically is my sublimation practice is how do I explain this? I use my sublimation practice to give me direction. Okay. So I have a practice that I practice each morning, and I'm basically sublimating my own energy. Mm-hmm. And then I'm kind of just open to whatever comes through. And whatever comes through is like my, I'm just looking for guidance, basically. And that's what gives it to me.
That's fantastic. And do you find a lot of men moving into this area where they really want to tap into this particular energy and really be open to their own, downloads and ideas and creations and guidance?
I'm working with a few people at the moment, and I'm starting to run some shorter courses, like 4-week courses. Mm-hmm. But I know in my circles, it's quite, all the people that I hang around with, everyone's kind of doing it in their own way. They know the importance of conserving our vital force and then basically redirecting it. So it's the difference between like, because the sexual energy is it's designed to create life. Mm-hmm. So if we just shoot it out like confetti, ejaculating all the time, then we're really depleting our ability to manifest. Mm-hmm. But as soon as we retain it, then we can start to birth new things into the world. So if I have a business that I want to birth, I can put my sexual energy into it, and it gives me a lot of force to make it happen. Or if I have a vision that I want to bring into life, I can use my sexual energy and bring it up into my vision and like really push it out into the world with force, which I wouldn't be able to do personally if I was ejaculating all the time, because it just makes me lazy, floppy. I just don't have the juice.
Yeah. And it sounds like as you're describing it, like when you are releasing that life force, you really aren't utilizing the full gift that we're able to have to tap into, to manifest and create and birth like real amazing creations for the world. it really is interesting, and I love it. And I'm talking with my husband about it. He's new to this, and we've been married for, well, tomorrow is 13 years. But it's really so interesting and exciting to kind of see a different path, at least from my perspective, being new and open to this. And, a lot of my listeners are new and open to really understanding this. And so when you're working with this and you're working as you're really tapping into do you feel like you're tapping into a lot more of masculine energy, or do you feel like you're inviting in a harmony of the feminine energy? Like, do you do any goddess work within as the male? Do you do any goddess work or anything like that? And this question may not be coming out clear.
No, I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not for me to sublimate, it's like, it's having sacred union within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at masculine qualities like focus, direction, penetration,
mm-hmm.
if I have these without the feminine qualities, I don't think you'd be able to get the energy to move.
Okay.
Because you need to be able to feel firstly. So you can't be this really rigid, stoic thing that's cut off from your emotions, because emotions are energy in motion. So if I'm suppressing my emotions and I'm not feeling, then my sexual energy isn't going to move. So I need to kind of cultivate my feminine as well as my masculine and bring them into balance. This was in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found like I had to cultivate both areas. And it wasn't until I had both areas kind of tapped in that I started to have a lot of success, I suppose, with sublimation.
Do you find that the shadow work really helped in allowing you to bring in your feminine energy?
Yeah, well, that was kind of like what I imagined my initiation into my feminine was. There was probably a period of at least 18 months where I was just like, I felt like I was dredging through my shadow. I would just have these really dark spells, and I was just kind of working through a lot of, I think, stuff that I had suppressed for a really long time. And I imagined it like I was holding my feminine. So I was healing my feminine during this time. And as time went on, I started to experience less of the bad stuff, and then I started to experience a lot more of the really pleasant and ecstatic kind of, start to kind of experience spontaneous fits of joy and laughter and a lot more pleasure, and my life became much more orgasmic. Once I had healed my emotional body, my feminine, and then things started to move really effortlessly.
Yeah, and then you felt yourself just basically into your flow, like, bringing you back into your, your flow in there. I love that. I've always wanted to ask this question, and I talk with my husband about this a lot because he is very open, and he had growing up, he has a lot of similarities with you, being sensitive and very angry, and he felt the world very overwhelming at times, and he had experiences that contributed to growth into that area too. But we always hear these topics, or these, be a real man, or, man up, or all of these sayings. And I wanted to get your opinion and thought on, first of all, what do you think about that? And then what is your personal definition of quote unquote real man, if there even is a definition to that particular saying?
Yeah, I think the kind of 1950s, 60s gender stereotypes, that's kind of where our concept of masculinity comes from. So the man is seen as like this kind of brick, no emotion, just works, provides, protects, which are really beautiful masculine qualities.
Sure.
But What was I going to say? Can you repeat the question?
Sure. No, it's totally okay. No, it's in the 1950s like mentality for like a real man, and like this
Oh, you asked me
protector.
what my
Your
my
perspective.
views on masculinity.
Yeah, absolutely. A quote unquote real man. The definition, and I think that this is where we're at right now because so many people are starting, fluidity is starting to happen, and so I'm really curious to hear what your perspective is.
Yeah, so I think a man needs to be able to feel. And I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to feel the pain and anger and resentment that we all carry around.
Yeah.
And this is like I said before, it's like an initiation. So once a man has held his own feminine, then he's kind of ready to hold the feminine in his beloved or his partner. And he can really step into that conscious masculine role. So I love the masculine qualities, courage, strength, protector, provider, warrior. But you also need the feminine aspects as well, because that's kind of the juice for life. So being able to flow with emotion, creative self-expression, movement, things like this. I think one of my teachers, Dr. Simon Martin, he says you need like a 60-40, 70-30 type split. So there'll be times when a man needs to go really deep into his feminine to like heal that part of himself. But at the end of the day, if his pure essence is masculine, then what he wants to bring into the world is to be more masculine. And then just have that feminine 30% there.
I love that. And, for me, and I think I talk with a lot of women too, and we talk about our internal masculine within our feminine and how, sometimes we need to tap into that. And I teach women on how to tap into their moon cycles and connect it with the moon and really find their own flow and their intuition and really learn their bodies and how to listen to them that way. And sometimes we need to tap into that masculine energy to complete something, bring it into this, the structure of something, the container, so to speak. And so I totally agree with your perspective and your idea of the masculine energy. And I love that perspective with the percentage of, 60-40 or 70-30, because I think that really just allows more freedom in expression and then feeling like, if I really want to bring this masculine energy out, then I feel confident to do that. And I can still support wonderful flow and support my partner or, whoever I'm in that relationship with. So I really,
and it goes for both. So like you said, it's important for a woman also to develop her masculine. The end game being like, to be whole and complete within yourself. So if I'm super masculine and I don't have any feminine attributes, then my life will be really dry. There'll be no juice. There'll be very little joy. So I'll look for that in my partner, and I'll need that from my partner.
So create a codependency type.
Then you've got a codependency. And same with a woman. If a woman's like totally in her feminine flow and joyous and emotional and full of life, but she's got no direction or clarity, then she'll look for her man to give her direction and clarity. And then if for some reason that stops happening, then there's like resentment and blame. So you want to develop both aspects of yourself, and then you kind of play your most natural role. So in the relationship, will play the masculine dynamic, but I have the capacity to drop into my feminine.
Absolutely.
And my partner she's playing the feminine dynamic, but we can switch,
Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially to talk right now with a lot of people releasing their sexual shame. I feel that they're so afraid to tap into that, and that if they do find enjoyment in one tapping into the other energy, shame comes up with that. And I'm curious, did you experience or go through a releasing of any shame connected to your sexual energy, or have you always been really aligned since your shift into your conscious effort, when you made the conscious effort to really tap into that?
No, I've definitely released a lot of shame over the years. I think I carried a lot of shame around being feminine myself. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I really owned that part of myself. Because I grew up in a household with a lot of women. Like, I lived with my mom and 3 sisters, and my dad would work away. So I had this, I was really quite feminine. And for a long time, especially when I started to do workshops and stuff, and they're telling me that you need to be really masculine, I was carrying a lot of shame about being so feminine. But I got to a point where I was really grateful for having that really well-developed feminine. And I guess what I've been working on more so now is the more masculine attributes. But yeah, I definitely did have a lot of shame to release. And I did a post about releasing the pelvic floor, which is a great way to do that. I think we, as men, we store our sexual shame in our ass. Mm-hmm. And it's basically the first roadblock we encounter if we're trying to redirect our sexual energy upwards. It also gives us a lot of people issues with premature ejaculation and things like that. Because there's so much like shame. If you imagine like when you tell a dog that it's done something wrong, it kind of like tucks its tailbone under.
Yep.
This is kind of the movement that's reflected in the human body when we're carrying a lot of shame in that area. So it's good to massage it out, and it helps heaps for things like erection strength, getting energy flow to and away from the genitals, being able to direct the energy upwards.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when we get towards the end here, we're going to definitely have you give everybody, your social media information, and definitely go check out that post, and really connect with him and connect with yourself, and ask yourself, for your listeners out there, for my listeners out there, ask yourself, am I holding on to shame? Am I holding on to this? Am I a literal tight ass? It's like,
it's such a true expression, because
it really is.
The people that are tight asses and the ones that are carrying a lot of tension in the ass, and this was me, it makes you really kind of overly serious, like despondent, a bit dark, like kind of hard to feel joy. So as soon as you free that energy up, it'll give you a sense of ease, a sense of lightness, and it makes it much easier to feel joy, and to just not be such a tight ass.
Yeah, well, and I
love that expression.
Me too, and especially since so many are out there, and I just, this kind of brings in through this other word in this topic of, even if when we hold so much toxins, when we're holding in our body, like we release waste and all this stuff like that. And so if we are holding in these toxins in our body in energetic form, that is rising up, and then we are living in this toxicity, and we're going through the cycle of it. And by really allowing yourself to, release that shame and really connect with yourself and trust that what you're doing is best for your body and for your energy and where you are at in your life. And just being confident and knowing that, look, this shit works. And, this is, if you really want to do this, really tap into yourself. And I think that's where a lot of us is headed right now. We are in this mass awakening. We are in this mass conscious shift that's going on. And and people are really starting to turn inward, and having leaders such as yourself out there and just really guiding people to really tap into themselves and really learn about themselves and find confidence in that, and is really just amazing work. And I really want to thank you for that, because it's so needed right now, especially as we hear the patriarchy and the toxic masculinity that's grasping, and all of these things that are trying to just happen. Your energy and guidance is really important. So thank you for that. I do have a couple questions before we get into. I have some fun questions I'd like to ask at the end too, just some random questions. But before we move on, I did read 2 articles. A lot of people are really hopping on this Ayurveda train, and I noticed that you were doing some articles about that. Can you share a little bit about that? Kind of guess the basics of it and how you came into that.
So the Ayurveda model is broken down into elements, or the 5 elements. So earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And basically each person has a constitution, which is a makeup of these elements. And depending on your individual constitution, then there's specific lifestyle and dietary guidelines you can follow to bring yourself back into balance. So I'll give you an example. My main constitution is Vata, which is air and ether. So people who are Vata types are generally small or tall and thin. They have kind of like knobbly joints. They have trouble holding on to weight, and they tend to be like dry. These people are like really dynamic, really creative, social. When they're out of balance, they tend to anxiety, nervousness, and things like this. So if I was to eat a diet that increased the air and ether elements in my body, for example, if I was to go on a raw food diet, for example, it would make me more airy. So I would be more likely to be out of balance, more anxious, more nervous, more flighty, less grounded, this type of thing. So instead, I focus on a diet that is really heavy and grounding. So I eat foods that are really nourishing, lots of good fat, and really like moist foods. So like warm soups and stews, curries, things like this, stuff that really
ground you
nourishes
into
the joints, the tissues, and grounds me. Otherwise, I'm just like floating around like a cloud.
Right.
Because it was funny, because there was a while there where I was really into raw food, and it really wasn't vibing with me, because you think like, what's healthy? Okay, salads are healthy, but not necessarily for every constitution.
I love that. I'm gonna definitely check into that. I've been curious myself, and I've been following Sahara Rose, who I believe is she's written a book on this as well. And I think it's really great. And what I love is that it almost kind of removes, and I guess not really removes, but removes the masculine and feminine energy types, and really just moves into the element energy types. The
elements are really, really potent. I use a kind of element model in my, when I teach sublimation. But my sister was actually talking about Sahara Rose recently. So once I hear something a few times, it means I need to check it out. So I'll have to check out her.
Yeah, she's got some great stuff, and her energy is just really amazing. So I think you'll definitely jive with her. Now, I did see an article or a post that you did, which was the top 5 tips for virility for men. And I'd love for you to share those if you would love to, if you wouldn't mind, and to really just share how my male listeners, because I have a lot more starting to listen now, which is fantastic. So I want to be able to serve them and offer them some guidance. So if you could share that, that would be fantastic.
Axel's 5 top tips for virility. So the first one is to make sure you get enough fat. So there's been like there was like a war on fat, and everything suddenly went low fat. But fat and particularly healthy cholesterol is what helps to build testosterone in the body.
Okay.
So if you're not vegetarian or vegan, then the best sources are animal fat, dairy, but good quality dairy, so like organic, free range, raw, this type of thing.
Right.
If you are vegan, then you can go nuts, seeds, olive oil, avocado, these types of things.
Okay.
Are really good for making sure you get enough healthy fat in your diet. The second tip, I need to refresh my memory. What was my second tip? Learn to relax.
That's huge.
And reduce stress. So cortisol disrupts our sleep, disrupts our hormones. So this is no good if we want to be virile and really strong. Another one is the practice retention. So if we are constantly ejaculating, we are constantly depleting ourselves. And there was a study they did where after 1 week of retention, our testosterone levels peak, like 40% or 50% or something.
Oh, wow.
I know that if I ejaculate, I feel much more feminine. So I become more emotional. My mind becomes like more foggy, dull, less clear. The longer I retain, I feel like the more yang I become. So my mind becomes super clear. I have a lot more energy, a lot more sexual energy, which I can use to create. A lot more direction, decisiveness. It's easier to make decisions and push myself forward. I can't actually remember what the other two were. Do you remember?
I don't, but you know what? When we give everybody your Instagram, everybody go and check that out because it's really just
Sleep was another one I remember, yeah.
Sleep is, and I believe...
Have a good sleep routine. So,
and I think working out was the other one too.
Oh yeah, working out. Yeah, absolutely. So weight training or body weight training, calisthenics, this type of thing. Anything where you're like stressing the body is great for boosting testosterone, enhancing mood, health, well-being, all these things. Yeah, I'm really passionate about men's sexual health, virility, potency, just so guys have the energy to, live, to make shit happen, to manifest their dreams.
Yeah,
it all takes energy.
It does. It does. Do you find it creates a healthier relationship with your partner as well?
Non-ejaculation?
Yeah.
Oh, incredibly so, yeah. Because it takes the focus off ejaculation. So as soon as before when I'd have sex, I was like thinking about coming, basically.
Right, getting to the end point.
Exactly. But if I am trying not to come, then it's basically just an exploration. And it's not so like, I'll use the word flow again. You can kind of flow. So you might like move together for a while. You might just sit there and gaze into each other's eyes. You take lots of breaks because you can go for a really long time if you are moving a sexual energy. And you're basically just getting dosed up on oxytocin, all these really feel-good hormones, DMT, things like this. You're just getting yourself charged up. So it takes the focus off the end game and it just makes it a exploration, connection, and a big hormone charge up.
I love it. I I just love all of it. Like, it's funny because, my husband and I, we've gone through so many different types. I've been through like 4 different perspectives in my own, like 4 different Michelles is who I've been. And, where I'm at now is really just so completely different than who I was before, and allowing him to really explore this. And I've noticed just in an experience with it, as another person talking about this, we practice this a lot as well. We practice really holding off. We don't focus on the end game. We focus on the actual energy flowing between us at that moment in time. And allowing ourselves to go back and forth, because even with the experience and that through that full experience, he'll be the masculine, I'll be feminine, and then I'll take on more masculine, he'll go feminine, and really that whole flow of it does increase even just the chemical output that you said. I mean, just allowing the flow and the energy to go through that is great. And then at the end, when, we decide whatever we want to do, it's such a much more magical and connecting experience. And, I think so many people really would benefit from really tapping in with their partners this way. And it really starts with, getting to know yourself and allowing yourself to not be such a tight ass and not be into the focus on the outcome. And that, just like with any manifesting tip, when you keep focusing on the outcome, it goes away, and so this is just so amazing. So thank you so much again for all of this. And before we go into some fun questions, where can everybody find you, and what passion projects are you working on right now? How are you serving people? How can they have you, how can they work with you?
So my Instagram is Axel Rayne Yoga. My webpage is axelrayneyoga.com. And my Facebook is also /Axel Rayne Yoga. So at the moment, I'm getting into private sessions, like taking people through sublimation individually, working with their specific needs. And I'm starting to take on some 4-week courses. I started one on Sunday.
Awesome.
My plan is to do a few more of those around Perth. And then I want to get some content online, just so people from other states, other countries can also get involved, because I'm getting a little bit of interest from people through social media that are looking for the teachings. So that's kind of my short-term game, is to get some content online and just keep working with people, teaching them how to sublimate.
Well, yeah, we support that, and we support you 100%. So we're definitely gonna, share this and have people really connect with you, because what you're teaching is so vital and important and necessary. So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so just a couple fun questions. First of all, what's your sign?
I'm a Leo.
You are a Leo. I was going to guess Leo. You definitely have Leo energy coming through. What spiritual text or book are you reading right now?
I'm listening to Jordan Peterson's audiobook, From Order to Chaos, 12 Rules for Living. So while it's not a traditional spiritual text, he's quite a spiritually pragmatic dude who really cuts through the bullshit. So I love his work.
I love that. You did a two-part post on your body as a temple, and the kingdom of heaven is within. And you break down that, which I love, how you did that. I've read the Magdalene manuscript, and I'm reading it again, because that's really where a lot of my teachings are as well for me. And I love how you really talked about in the beginning when you were talking about sublimation and how it is also taught in the Bible. And that really correlates with the Magdalene manuscript and her story. So I just wanted to bring that up.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
When I was like, because I think all the ancient teachings are like hinting at the same thing, really. Mm-hmm. And they use, it's allegorical, it's symbolic, but it's really referring to the sublimation process that happens inside ourselves, which I think is our birthright, and everyone needs to learn how to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny how the different perspectives, when you take a step back, or when you, I guess, take a wake up, step up and a step back from what's going on, and really like see what's going on with the fear that's coming through, all these people utilize and translate the Bible and the Quran and all of these teachings into their own perspective from fear. And if they,
literally,
yeah,
literally.
exactly. And it's understanding that not everything is literal, and you got to really feel between the lines. And so,
and the beautiful thing is, if I'm a Christian and I want to have an experience of God, learn to sublimate, and you'll feel God inside you. You'll see God. If you're I don't know what the other ones are.
There's
I'm
a
not
few.
sure if the Quran refers to the same thing, but if you want to experience the Prophet Muhammad, then learn to sublimate, and you will feel and see the Prophet Muhammad. Like, that's what they're teaching. They're teaching you how to feel God inside you.
Yeah,
that's where He is.
Yeah.
He is.
I agree, and I love that you have that, and you're really starting to speak out about that. And I know that can be kind of a touchy subject for people because there's so much fear around that. So kudos on that. I just wanted to bring that up because it like totally popped in my head.
I would love that. I was looking into that for a while.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. So everybody
researching, and wow, it's amazing.
Right? I know it's funny when I'm working on writing my first book, and it's like the research that's going into it. Yeah, it's like, oh fuck, what is happening? Like my whole world is being blown up here.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be a massive undertaking.
Yeah, it definitely brings about, it brings about, you think you've gotten into all of your, you're doing the shadow work, you think you've gotten into your box, and your box is empty there. And it brings up some little ones here. I mean, even just getting on this interview with you, I got to be honest, I got to be real. Like, talking, I haven't allowed myself to interact with males in quite some time because of so much, balls being thrown at my face. And so it brought out some beliefs and some things that I needed to work through, and some insecurities and stuff. And so it's just every single experience that we have allows us to tap into more growth and become more aligned with who we truly are. So
that's a really beautiful sentiment to hold. Like, even when you're going through the most darkest, painful times, there's always a jewel or a gem or a lesson that will come out of it.
Absolutely.
And in terms of shadow work, or self work, I don't think it will never be perfect. It's always going to be something. There's always another layer that will come up, that'll be stirred to the surface. The layers may get progressively more subtle, but I think there'll always be something there.
I agree, and I think
at the end of the day, it's like just remembering to enjoy the process, even if you are in the muck. Just enjoy the muck.
Right, pull up your boot covers and just go for it. You're building your quads and your ass and everything while you're doing it. So
exactly. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, it's totally fine. I love it. So what song is really describing you right now, or piece of music? Like, what is embodying your energy currently?
You know what I love? I love the playlist A1 Hip Hop on Spotify. I'm just listening to hip hop flat out because I'm kind of in hustle mode.
Okay.
And I find that hip hop is just all about hustle mode, getting stuff done. So I'm listening to a lot of hip hop at the moment, like Rich the Kid, bit of Drake's in there. I'm trying to think of whatever else is in there. But it's the playlist on Spotify. I listen to it flat out.
I'll totally go check that out. Do you listen to old school hip hop, like original or old 90s or 80s hip hop?
Yeah, I do enjoy it, but I'm not listening to it at the moment.
Yeah.
I listen to that A1 hip hop playlist, and then I listen to Little Bit Nadi. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He's a classical composer. He makes the most beautiful, mesmerizing journey compositions.
I would love.
So that's if I want to relax, I listen to him. If I want to hustle, then I listen to A1 hip hop.
Can you spell his name so I can look him up? Or say it again, and I'll try and spell it. Tell Google to spell
it. I can spell it. I think Ludo.
Okay.
Vico. That's his first name.
Okay.
and then the last name is EINAUDI, something like that.
Okay. All right.
I think if you got that, Google will
pick it up and fix it, right? Fix it. They're like, why are you trying to spell this? You know you can't spell this. Just said it.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll definitely check that out because I agree. I listen to, I love hip hop. So I was a dancer. Once you're a dancer, you're always a dancer. So
amazing.
Yeah, hip hop is definitely my gig, but so is some good lounge house. But I listen to classical music. I was a classical musician for many years as well. So I'm definitely curious to look him up. And what was the last thing you researched or looked up on Google?
I was looking for art classes, dance classes. Because I've been really focusing on my hustle at the moment, that I haven't really been doing so much for myself. So I put on my to-do list dance/art/fun. I'm looking at it right now, actually. So I'm just looking for like a way of expressing myself. So I booked in for a salsa Latin dance course, and I want to do.
That sounds super fun.
An art course as well. So one of the beauties of sublimation is it gives you a lot more energy. So you've got to use the energy, and the best way to do that, I think, is like through creative outlets like dancing, singing, the art.
I love that. I agree.
Great way to use that energy.
Yeah, because if you can create with your body through, allowing that, then that really transfers through so many other places too. I mean, how you are in one area of your life, you are in all areas of your life. So I love that.
I really like that saying. It's like how you do one thing is how you'll do everything.
Yeah.
Like how you do the dishes is how you'll be at work, is how you'll be in the bedroom, So if you're always rushing for the end goal, that's always what you'll be doing. But if you slow down and take your time, enjoy the different sensations, the feeling, and then that's how you'll be for everything.
I love that. I love it so much. Even down to like putting the grocery cart back into the little containers that are out there. Axel, thank you so much for spending so much time with me and with my listeners and everybody who has decided to come on and listen. And, thank you again for the work that you're doing. We really appreciate it, especially the work that you're doing for yourself and in yourself and on yourself, because as we know that the work that we do with ourselves really just ripples out and translates to healing so much in the collective. And it's just well received from us who are really getting it, and I think it's really going to be a game changer for this world and the collective throughout this ascension process. And I think it's going to really allow people to make quantum leaps within their lives. And so thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing all of your guidance and energy and light with us.
No worries. You really touched on something that was pivotal in my life there. The healing of yourself to heal the world. Because there was a time, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where I used to just get really down on like the world is fucked. Like there's all this pollution and greed, and I would just like let it eat me up. And it wasn't until I kind of had the idea that any work that I do on myself will heal the collective. So if anyone wants to have an influence on the world to heal the world, then you just start with yourself. And that's something you can easily do day to day.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me on. It was super fun. I could talk to you for hours, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially once I got over my little like shaky voice, and I'm like, come on, you can do this. You can talk to him. He's a human.
Well, I would have liked to ask you a few questions too, but we'll save them.
Well, yeah, let's save that. We can have another, you can come back on and you can ask me some questions and we can totally go from there for sure.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And all of you listeners out there, don't forget to go check out Axel. Definitely follow him on his social media, all of his social media, and just keep watching. Really, again, ask yourself, am I really allowing myself to open up? Am I allowing myself to be the human that I can be to the full potential that I've been given? And, sometimes it starts with just stopping being a tight ass and, get yourself moving. That's right. Don't be a tight ass. That's the name of this episode. So, all right. Thanks so much, Axel. And we'll talk to your listeners later.